Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Discover North Korea with me, Zoe, and my guest, Greg, who will be joining any second now, I hope. But firstly, I guess whilst we're waiting for him, I want to say a massive thank you. There he is, he's popped up. I want to say a massive thank you for joining back in the podcast today because I have a guest on. I've started recording guests on videos, so feel free to go over to YouTube to see us and our lovely faces if you'd rather do that. And if you have any questions, any thoughts, any feelings, anything like that, then do message me on Instagram at Zoe Discovers or at Zoe Discovers NK, or email me on zoediscovers@gmail.com. So let's let Greg into this meeting right now, and we can get the podcast going. Hi, Greg. Can you hear us? Hey. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
How are you doing? Nice background. Very academic. Wow. I feel like I'm Skyping with Zooming with the professor.
Not yet.
Not yet. Soon to be. At some point. Looks, I like you've even got the plants and stuff. And what books have we got going on in the background? Presumably stuff on Korean history.
No, because all my Korean books are either in Budapest or somewhere in Jeju. I don't even know where my books are. I mean, I know where I have books, but I don't know where specific books are.
Why are they all in Jeju?
Because when I left Korea, it was way too, they could only ship to Budapest with EMS and EMS Premium. So basically, it would have been way too expensive to send it over to Hungary. And I have a friend who lives in Jeju, and domestic shipping in Korea is ridiculously cheap. Like, I shipped 2 boxes of books and some like household materials for like less than $10.
Oh, what? That's crazy. Okay. Nice.
Why the only box I shipped to Budapest with books was for like $400. So
yeah. Okay, fair enough. Very expensive.
my parents' books.
Lovely. Just to let you know, I just kind of started recording. Hope that's okay.
I heard it, yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot Zoom lady will kind of tell you beforehand. Cool. Well, I guess we can just kind of catch up for a minute because I haven't seen you in probably, unfortunately, really sadly, since the last time we recorded a podcast. I can't believe that's the last time we caught up because we are actually friends, suppose.
Easy friends.
What have you been up to? What's been going on?
And I'm busy climbing up on the ladder of ground handling.
Very exciting. Hey, that's fun because the last episode that we did together was all about air choreo, and you didn't have your new job by then, but now you do have a new job. Maybe we can tell the listeners what your job is because it has something to do with air choreo. It has something to do with air flight, maybe not necessarily air choreo. And I kind of didn't tell anyone, but like the theme of this podcast today is going to be about transport and stuff like that in the DPRK because we kind of didn't finish that last time. We just ended up talking about air choreo. But yeah, do you want to tell people what you kind of do now?
Basically, I'm working at Keflavik Airport as a ground handling agent. Very soon, I'm going to be a lead agent. So it's going to be even more exciting because then I will have the chance to get into the cockpit and stuff or flight deck to be more PC. So basically, I'm responsible for everything which happens on the ramp or on the stand where the aircraft parks during turnover. So basically, if there is not a docking system, then we have to marshal in the aircraft. We have to put a jet bridge on the aircraft, stairs, offloading, onloading, water service, lavatory service, pushback, communicating with the flight deck during pushback. So basically everything which happens around the aircraft except for cleaning and fueling.
Mm.
So I spend a lot of time in the belly of the aircraft, and it also changes the perspective of how luggages are handled. So,
Oh, okay. Like, not very well, I guess.
well, it all depends on, of course, how you handle a luggage until it gets to the aircraft is based on your personality, because then you can be very gentle and stuff.
Mm.
But unless you use the power stove, which is a belt loader, which can go way into the belly of the aircraft. So basically, your luggage is on a belt until like a few centimeters where it's supposed to be in the belly of the aircraft. So if you don't have that equipment, then basically the belt loader ends where the luggage hold door is. And then you have to get the luggage from there to the end of the aircraft. Like if you have four wheels, then it's easy because you can push it and then it goes all the way in. If
Mm.
it has two wheels, it's more problematic. But if it has no wheels, then I'm sorry, you have to throw it because otherwise loading of the luggages would take hours.
Right. So that's what you've been busy with, throwing people's luggages.
I would say 50% of my time. But since now that I have a heavy equipment license, I can operate all equipment around the aircraft.
Very cool.
I spend less time in the belly, the hold. Um, and once I'm going to be a lead agent, I will spend most of the time around the aircraft coordinating the servicing of the aircraft.
And this has all happened very quickly. I feel that like you've kind of gone from like starting out at a new job to being promoted several times. So
Yes,
well done.
I would say that my company is the company of opportunities because as
Uh-huh.
everywhere else in Europe, we have staffing problems.
Ah.
There is not staff because, um, there are two components to it. One is COVID.
Mm.
Then, most of the companies just laid off their employees because they had
Mm.
no job. And then when it's restarted again, there was not enough people to do the job. Um,
Mm.
Iceland has a new airline called Play,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they started to grow very quickly. And they have, like during the winter, we had like four flights in one period,
Mm.
like in the morning and then in afternoon. And now we have like sometimes almost like eight or even more.
Oh, so keeping very
And we
busy.
couldn't catch up filling up the employees.
Mm.
Um, and also they needed more lead agents because more flights means more lead agents. And I guess because of my English, they expedited the process.
Mm. Right, I was
Uh,
going to ask that because so you're working in Iceland. Can I tell people which airport you're working at? I don't know.
so
Is that a secret? Huh?
Keflavik Airport,
Yeah, right. So the like the main
the
capital
main gateway. Yeah,
city, yeah, of like entrance into Iceland, I guess. Um, so you're in Iceland and you're in the main airport. Everyone look out for Greg. If you are transiting or if you're going to Iceland. I think you have a story to tell in terms of that, just looking at your face. But because you were just saying about the language, I wanted to just ask super quickly. Um, do you speak English? Have you started learning Icelandic? What is
Icelandic. There is more need for Polish at my company because I would say that
Ah,
90% of my colleagues are Polish.
how similar is Hungarian and Polish?
Not at all.
Oh, okay, never mind. So the common language, the common lingua franca is English.
Uh,
Uh,
that's how it's supposed to be, but Polish is spoken mostly.
oh,
So
fair enough.
sometimes I have to like, okay, guys, like let me know what's going on. And
Ah,
also
that's a bit annoying.
the communication on the radio is in Polish, unless
Hmm.
the person
Oh my
involved
gosh.
speak Polish.
Wow.
Um, but for me as a Hungarian, working with Polish people is quite pleasant because there's a historic friendship between Poland and Hungary, which continued until the war in the Ukraine. Now it's a bit more complex, politically speaking.
Okay.
But we are traditionally good friends, and also being from East Europe or East Central Europe, your preferences. We also have a shared historic heritage. So I would say that how, if you take out Catholicism from the picture, then I would say that the Hungarian and Polish mindset, the Hungarian and Polish work morale is quite similar, which is again a little bit problematic when it comes to work, because we work way harder than Westerners or Icelandic people. I'm really sorry to say that, but that's
no,
true.
I was just going to finish your sentence there and say, like, what, work harder than Western Europeans? Like, yeah.
Means that, and that's being understood by the Icelandic managers in the company, our workload is also much bigger than it's supposed to be.
But you're also getting promoted as you do so. So, swings and roundabouts.
Stating facts. And I'm used to this kind of work morale. So that's no surprise for me.
Yeah.
Especially that before that I worked in China, I lived in Korea, so
right, yeah,
it's nothing new for me.
So has anyone seen you at the airport yet? You definitely looked like you had a story to tell from me mentioning that a second ago.
If someone ever checks out my Facebook or Instagram profile, they will see a photo of me which was taken up in Monpektu when I was giving an interview to local Korean TV channel about visiting Monpektu. And that photo was taken by one of our customers. And they live in Iceland. It's an Italian-Polish couple. And they were flying back to Italy in February, and we met up for a coffee. And I said the next day when they are traveling, there's a small chance that I'm going to be around your aircraft because they are flying EasyJet, which is handled by our company.
And
was assigned to their aircraft. So they took photos of me while working around the aircraft.
That's so cool.
Chance to go up to the jet bridge and just, wave them off just before they boarded the aircraft.
That's very cool.
So basically this lady is always taking photos of me while working. It's like it's been or in Iceland.
Hopefully the next time that she takes a picture of you, it'll be back in North Korea, working back there.
Because we just published our second South Korea tour.
Yeah, or in South Korea. Yeah. Before we get into North Korea stuff, maybe you can chat a bit about that. Like what is the South Korea tour? I guess no one listening will know anything about the South Korea tour really, because I haven't started promoting it on social media yet. So they might have seen about it last year, but you take the floor. It's your tour.
Yeah, but before I go into that, just one more thing about meeting with the couple. So the lady was in charge before with the hotels, like cleaning rooms and room service in Iceland. And she said that she was showing pictures what she took back in Pyongyang in Yangadro as an example of how.
No.
Yes. Of how hotel rooms should look like. Not the quality, of course, because
all the hotel rooms should look like the 1980s.
But how the room service supposed to be done. So basically, North Korea has some teaching material in the hotel industry.
In Iceland.
probably all over the world.
Mm.
And she pointed out, and although I also pointed out that, like, yeah, but that's, it's a bit problematic when it comes to uh, being green, that
Mhm.
she was like amazed by how when we received our laundry, like every single item was folded into a small plastic bag, like piece by piece. I mean, not piece by piece, but pair by pair when it comes to like.
Oh, is it? I've never had my laundry done in the Angakto because it's too expensive.
Oh, okay, then you must have been smelling really badly after the end of
No, I just bring enough clothes with me to last like the whole time.
fun days.
I'm trying to think now, like what I did. Maybe I've never I know for a fact I've never had it done in the Ankakto. I think when I went like on the mega tour or something and it was a long time, I think I asked the guides what the cheapest place to do it is. And I think
Hmm.
maybe I did it in maybe in Chongjin or something where you can pay like a random woman to do it. And I remember also this is what the guides do. The guides were doing their washing in like the spa room, the like the Jimjilbang thing in Chongjin or up in the northeast. I can't remember which hotel it is at. And it has like an on-site spa. And you go down there and there's the guides enjoying the spa but also washing their clothes at the same time. I was like, this is kind of really smart. So I did that as well.
When I was living in Pyongyang,
Mm.
I was doing my laundry. Like I was very like North Korean. I had like two sets of change. So every evening I did my laundry by hand in the bathroom.
Ah, wait, you
But for the
literally
mega
just
tour,
had like two sets of clothes for like a whole month?
yeah,
Wow.
I had two white shirts and like maybe three changes of underwear. And then in the evening, just before I took my shower, I also um, did my laundry by
Yeah.
hand.
To be fair, it's nowhere near as bad as when I was living at university. And I don't think my housemate listens to this podcast, but if he does, then sorry for pointing you out here. But I remember finding out in my first year of university that the way that one of my housemates does his washing is by taking his dirty underwear into the shower with him and then just washing his underwear in the shower as he's washing himself. And I'm like, I mean, it saves water, I guess, but I don't know how clean your underwear will get or how dirty your body will get from all that dirty underwear, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got to this topic. What we chat about the South Korea tour.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had a very successful tour last year, as I pointed out, I guess, in our first podcast together when we had Nick and Simon on board as well.
Yes, that's true. That's episode 5 if people want to go back to that episode and listen to it.
So because of that success and also because North Korea is still not open, and the best way to get as close to North Korea as possible is South Korea, because I don't think China is much of an option. Um,
China's open for tourism now, but
yes, but like you can go as far as Dandong, and since you start to travel along the border, you might get into.
yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Yeah, there's a lot of security up there.
I don't really like Westerners being around the DPRK China border.
Yeah.
So because of that, we decided to run the tour again, and it's going to be in October. And basically, we're going to travel along the DMZ. Now, as opposed to last year, we're going to start on the west coast, Yeonpyeong Island,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is within the northern limit line, which is like the CDMZ or the CDML. No, because there is a DML on the sea as well, but the northern limit line is like more extended because there is like dispute between the DPRK and the ROC on where exactly this border is, and
Mm,
the area to which like fishing boats are not supposed to go into and stuff. That
mm,
also led to a conflict in 2002 There was a battle, Pyongyang is called, between the Northern Navy and the Southern Navy. But it was actually during the World Cup, so had some more political motives as well than just, debating the exact boundary between the two countries, the two regions. And there's actually a very good movie about it called
What's the movie called?
The Limit Line.
Oh, okay. Maybe I can put the
And
link in the show notes so people can go to it.
And also there was a shelling of the island in 2010, I guess. So actually there is a
Wow.
security education center on the island, which we're also going to visit, which is housed right next to a building which was hit
Wow, okay.
by the North Korean shelling. And also the replica of the boat which was involved in the Battle of Yeonpyeong in 2002 is on show right next to in the garden of the War Memorial of Korea, which is like the Korean War Museum in South. And it just reminds me of Pueblo.
Right.
Because it also has like exactly how the North Koreans, there's the red circles around the bullet holes on
So
USS Pueblo.
interesting.
Have the same red circles around the bullet holes on the boat, which is on show, and the South Korean boat, which participated in or the replica of it, participated in the Battle of Yeonpyeong in 2002, and so on.
Wow, it's interesting how the two sides have both done that so similarly. And I just want to say, for those that don't know what the Pueblo is, it's basically the American spy ship that was taken by North Korea, and it's now on show it was in Wonsan, it's now in Pyongyang, and you can go and visit it, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, but also when you're on this South Korean tour, just cannot stop discovering the similarities between the two sides. Actually, we had a customer on tour. Actually, we should have her on a podcast.
Yeah.
Because she had really good eyes in recognizing the similarities, and she kind of ran a series on her Instagram.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Photos from her trip to the north and her trip with us to the south, and comparing the two experience.
Okay.
I think on similarities. Yeah, but so we're going to start on the west, and then we're going to visit most probably the JSA, the Joint Security Area where the Blue Huts are. Although it's yet to be confirmed, because as of now only South Korean nationals are allowed to go on tours to the JSA, and then we're going.
So the JSA is that's the area with the blue huts that everyone knows and stuff like that. So the DMZ, what Greg is talking about, is the demilitarized zone, right? But most people think that like the DMZ is just those blue huts. And actually, I posted a picture on my Instagram the other day saying like the DMZ, and it was an image of these blue huts. And someone commented saying like, oh, I thought that it would be like miles and miles of like nothingness and wasteland and, environment, like just, trees and stuff like that. But it's really built up and it's got houses and stuff like that on it. And I'm like, yeah, but this bit does, like, this is the JSA. This is like the area that, is the kind of touristy bit of it that most people visit, and it's the blue huts, it's a recognizable bit. But what Greg is talking about when we talk about the DMZ is, there is a line that separates North and South Korea, and it goes all across from east to west or west to east, and that is very, very long. Greg probably knows the exact numbers because I'm very bad with that, but it's also very, you don't know. It's also very wide. So it's about, I don't know, I think it's about 5 miles wide. And that is literally just, land of incredible nature. And it's so interesting, actually, in recent years, such incredible nature has come out of it because it is no man's land and there has been like endangered species spotted there and stuff like that. So, yeah, just wanted to clear that up for people. How long is the
Actually,
DMZ?
so 2 kilometers to the north and the south when we
Oh,
talk
okay.
about
Not 5 miles.
is let me
Put you on the spot now.
so basically the problem is that I started out as a history major, and during my very first exam I told the teacher that there are two things I can't remember: numbers and names. And then we agreed that okay, that's probably history is not for me. And
That's really funny. I'm the same though.
life
Numbers
proved him right.
It was definitely good of you to go into anthropology instead. You're more of a people person instead of a number person.
Kilometers.
Wait, say that again?
240 kilometers is the length.
240 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide.
4 kilometers because 2 and 2.
Oh, sorry, 4 kilometers. Yeah.
But speaking of incredible nature and endangered species and stuff, we are also planning to gain access to one of the DMZ hiking trails.
We tried to
We
do that.
tried to do that, yeah, and back then, and I think right now as well, it's only for South Korean nationals. Um, but we are working on it, so probably it's going to happen.
That's so cool. What is the, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but maybe talk us through like where that goes and stuff like that and where it is on the DMZ, because it's, it's 200, whatever you just said, 2,200. I can't remember numbers. Yeah.
There are quite a few sections,
Mm-hmm.
and the one we are trying to do is on the East Coast, so at the Kumgangsan area.
Okay.
But also we're going to visit Chorwon, where Zoe and I went together
We did.
in 2018.
I still have all that content that I need to make into a video. I just haven't had time. It'll come out at some point and we'll look so young.
And it was fun. It was a fun trip.
It was.
So we're going to visit that as well.
And what is that?
So basically, that's kind of the middle of the DMZ area, which actually is supposed to belong to the north. You can visit two observatories there. Actually, one of the observatories, Sungri or Victory Observatory, is the best I ever been to because that's the closest to the demarcation line. You can see quite a few military outposts. Actually, I think it's actually part of a military outpost. They just made it observatory. So basically, there you cannot take because of the safety concerns, but you can see a lot.
Okay. Do you also have to sign? Because I know when you visit the JSA from the south, you have to sign like a waiver saying like, if anything happens to you here, it's not.
I didn't have to.
You didn't have to. Why?
Because it was a special. But yeah, when I was on like proper 100% tourist tour, then yeah, before the security briefing at Camp Boniface, you have to sign a paper that if something happens to you, it's pretty much because
Wow.
wanted to come.
Wow.
But no, not there. But there, the bus has to get like a special placard saying that yeah, we have been there. There's check-in for us. I mean, it's not what it's all doing behind the scenes, but we have to list all the people who are visiting, and so on and so on.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we're also going to visit Umgangsan area, which is on the east coast. There we're going to stay in a hotel, the Kumgangsan Kondo Hotel, which is very similar to hotels in North Korea.
Which
As much as that even we had problems with the elevator.
Oh, really? Hey, is this the hotel that South Koreans only are allowed to stay in, but then somehow we now stay in?
It's not that it's only South Koreans allowed to stay, but the argument, so basically they do everything to prevent you from staying there.
Why?
For some reason. Because it's really, it's not up to, they believe that it's more like for South Korean tourists spending the weekend in the area. You know, there's this argument in South Korea and North Korea, in Korea in general, that it is not for foreigners, it's for.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's quite a normal thing to hear in Korea.
It's not that there is something like there's not a legal background or a regulation behind it. It's just like how they say it or how they want to, you know, have a shortcut to the end of the conversation.
Yeah, and it's funny that you should say that like that's in South Korea and just generally in Korea because like a lot of the time I think when that's said to you in North Korea, like why can't I do it? Or it's, you know, it's for the local people, it's not for the foreigners. Then of course like your brain switches and it's like, oh my God, there must be like something really like super cool in there that, you know, it's because the foreigners aren't allowed to see it, or like it must be top secret information in there, or it must be something crazy because it's North Korea. But like you make a good point, like it happens in South Korea too. Like it's just a Korea thing. Like sometimes they just want to keep things for themselves and not let foreigners
And
enjoy
also, I
it.
think they have a view of Westerners and Western like what are expectations, and if they believe that these like the circumstances there are not up to those expectations, then you know it's better if you just, you know, keep foreigners out of it. It's like a reversed Orientalism. Like they
Right.
have their own most like exotic views of the exotic other, which is in this case being the Westerner, and how they, you know, how we, you know, enjoy life and stuff. And then if it's in those standards, then just easier to say that it's not for foreigners.
True. And that's both in North Korea and in South Korea. And also, interestingly, I mean, it's also in China as well, like, but more in the bureaucracy of things, in that, like, you know, there are a lot of hotels that foreigners can't stay in China, and they are local only hotels and they don't have a permit to give foreigners because of that reason. Like the hotel is not up to standards. And you find that in North Korea as well, you know, like there are some hotels I think that like foreigners can't stay in, or like stuff like that, and it's because like they think that it's not up to standard.
And yeah, but of course, but in the north there is also the fear that, you know, it can be turned against them.
Yes, yeah, they have
So
that
it's not,
paranoia, which
yeah,
is well-founded paranoia.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like sometimes and it will sound awful and a bit, uh, but sometimes I would love to take some of our colleagues or some of the decision makers on trips to other parts of Southeast Asia or Africa to show that what you think is the general is only for the privileged white people.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And not like the rest of the world, at least as far as accommodation standards go. Like North Korea is not
Oh,
lacking behind.
and it's amazing. And like for someone that like me, like when I first went to North Korea as well, like I was like a backpacker traveler, right? And like you know, to be honest, I hate the fact that I'm almost 30 and still staying in youth hostels, but I do, just because they're cheaper and stuff. And you know, I haven't had a job for the past 3 years probably, so um, you can relate. So you know, especially when I started working in North Korea, it was like 5 years ago. I was like mid-20s, and like I was staying in youth hostels all the time. I went to North Korea, and like you have to stay in like one of their standard hotels. And like for me, I was like, this is luxury because I'm used to staying in hostels and stuff like that. And I think like what they don't understand is, that like some people like that kind of a bit grimy, a bit like more down to earth travel. Of course, like not everyone, but some people like it's more authentic experience. And I think the North Koreans could never understand something like that unless they go away for themselves. And, brings us back to one of the conversations that we've had, like with one of the tour guides, who's, finally understood the joys of walking around in a place instead of just being driven around in a place. And that was her first time abroad and stuff. So kind of relates to that, I guess, right?
Yeah. And actually, we don't have to go as far as like the developing world. Like, and it's something also we talked about with the Polish lady who I met here in Iceland as well. That for
Mm-hmm.
us, it's our childhood.
Right.
So in Hungary, there was something called Szotülő, which is like the holiday home of the unions, of the work
Mm-hmm.
unions. And the standards of the hotels in the countryside are exactly the same as the these former holiday homes for the working unions in Hungary in the 1990s. So for
Right.
me, that was the standard. That's something I used to, and that's it brings back memory for me, and I'm sure that it brings back memories for those who grew up either in the socialist bloc or in the 1990s of the in a post-socialist country.
Mm.
So for me, it's not something alien. It's not something, no, that's the standard for us.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting that you have that comparison because I can't relate, but no, it's very interesting. Before we get into like talking some more, I just wanted to say like, we've done it again. We just carry on chatting about stuff. Should we make this episode more about like South Korea and like you can explain more about the tour and the interesting things that you can do in it, and then like we can just carry on talking about that.
I think we should save a podcast for the South Korea tour, and
Yeah.
then we can maybe try to bring someone on who actually did the
Oh.
tour
Okay. Okay. Let's save
to
that for next time then.
see their experience and their insight in comparing North and South. And
Okay.
especially those who been to North Korea, they
Right.
can point out sorry, the 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 real value of the tour, about that how much you can learn about Korea
Right.
for the
Okay.
DPR even without going there.
Right. So we should probably stop talking about South Korea. We've had like half the podcast. Okay, so for those listening, we are doing a quick change from South and North Korea to talk about transport, which I guess, we'll take the tram on over from the south to the north. Um and I guess we'll have another episode. Hopefully, Greg will bring a guest along, and we can hear about the South Korea tour, and how you can join as well. I will put all the information to the South Korea tour in the show notes as well, in case your appetite has been sparked and you just need to find out some more information straight away. It is a very cool tour, but it's not the topic of conversation today. Topic of conversation today is what we tried to do last time, is DPRK transport. Last time we talked a bit about trains. We did. And then I also, for the past two podcasts, have actually been doing like a live train journey from Beijing to Dandong on the North Korean border. So we've covered trains, we've covered planes. What other transport is there left in the DPRK? Maybe we should go over like the biggest one, because I feel like we might just get stuck there. And if so, we'll just have to have a transport number 3 podcast. But should we do Pyongyang Metro?
Okay, but just before that, so just to have the connection between South and North transport-wise,
Okay, go on.
there was
What have you got?
during the Sunshine Policy in the 2000s, when it was possible go over by train from south to north. Obviously, and then the Kaesong Industrial Complex also had a railway connection. And we can see during the South Korean tour those train lines. But on the east coast, the Kumgangsan area, there was a train coming from the south to the north, which brought South Korean tourists into the special tourism zone. And also there were plans to use a ship to ship South Koreans from the south to the north by the oh,
Forgot the
blimey!
word.
I forgot the name of the ship which is docked in
What?
Wonsan.
Greg forgot the name of something? That's not like you.
Bong 92, I think. Yeah.
Oh, the one in Wonsan.
Yeah, yeah. It
Ah.
was also supposed to be used for traveling between South Korea and special tourism zone in Kumgangsan area.
So that is, yeah, so that's taking South Koreans purely for tourism into North Korea, which I think will be shocking for most of our listeners to find out that was actually a thing, but it was during the Sunshine Policy era, which was which dates in South Korea? The nine.
It was in the early 2000s, late 1990s.
Yeah.
And the tourism project to Kumgangsan was, I think, between 1998 and 2008. 2008, the incident happened. And in the meantime, the right-wing government was elected into power in the south. So they stopped tourism.
Yeah. So the Sunshine Policy is a time period that's kind of often noted as one of the I guess friendliest periods between the North and the South in recent years. And it's a series of engagement policies with the North instead of
Yeah, so if someone is more familiar with European history, that's like the like as West Germany during the Willy Brandt administration had Westpolitik. South Korea for 2 presidential terms had Nordpolitik, which
right.
was like engagement.
Yeah.
Also failures, but it's better trying than not to try, I guess.
Yeah. And then unfortunately there was an incident in Kumgangsan area where a South Korean tourist was shot, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And as Greg mentioned as well, a um change in government in the south as well. So that kind of stopped that sunshine period and also stopped the tourism in the Kumgangsan region. But is the train that you're talking about the one that we also visited on our tour as well? Like when we went there just for travel? Because we did go to a train station that connected north and south.
It was in Cholwon, so so that train station was the last station. I think that was the line between Seoul and Wonsan. And that's the last station in the south.
Okay.
But that's it's not in operation. It's just a historic station built by the Japanese.
Right. Right. Whilst we're on trains, why don't we chat about trains actually? Like, I mean, I don't mean about like Chinese trains and the train that took us into that takes us from China into North Korea, because I've touched on that before and we talked about that before, but the internal train network in North Korea and where you can go, and because you have a quite unique experience where you traveled a lot on the train in North Korea, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So I'm still not the record holder. Uh, in
Did
terms
we
of
talk
time,
about this last episode? I can't remember.
no, we didn't really touch upon it actually.
Yeah.
Maybe we mentioned that it's possible to travel from Pyongyang to Rason.
Yeah.
But we didn't go
Okay.
into detail.
Go on, we'll go into the details.
Specifically as of now, because before it was possible to take other trains as well. And I'm not sure if it was possible in the history of Koryo tours, but when my grandparents visited in 1988, they took the train from Nampo to Kaesong.
From Nampo to Kaesong. So Nampo on the west coast and Kaesong are just further south. Kaesong is on the border to the DMZ. So if you're going down to Kaesong, I don't know if my camera's flipped here. I can't really tell, but you're going from west kind of to the middle and then down.
I'm sure that they had to go travel through Pyongyang. So I think it was like Nampo to Pyongyang, Pyongyang to.
Okay. Pyongyang Kaesong. That's an interesting line.
And they took a overnight train. So at some point, it was possible for foreigners to take more than one domestic train. But what we are talking about now is so basically there are. Oh, I can't remember. Okay, not now, not at the time, but there were trains from Pyongyang all the way to Moscow. So basically, maybe twice a month, there was a train from Pyongyang which went at first. It goes from Pyongyang to the east coast of North Korea, and then it travels up north along the coast to Rason, which is like the special economic zone, where the border, like so DPRK, China, Russian border is, and then it crosses. The train crosses over to Russia, and then at some point it joins with the Trans-Siberian Railway coming from Vladivostok, and then you can travel all the way to Moscow.
Yeah, I've taken that one. So that would be, how long would that ride be in total, Pyongyang to Moscow? It's about 6 days from Vladivostok to Moscow, right?
I don't want to lie. I could look up because I have the schedule somewhere on my computer.
It's okay. You can tell me after. I'll add it in the show notes.
I think it's like 6 to 8 days.
Yeah.
Plus how much it takes in the north.
Yeah, right.
So basically so if you take the train, then there is at least 24 hours in Rason.
Okay.
Because they leave enough time. If there are delays on the North Korean side, they can still, catch the Trans-Siberian on
And
time.
are delays common on the northern side?
Yes. For various reasons. When I was traveling, it took us, I think we were delayed for like 12 hours or even more. So basically, that's an electrified line.
Right.
And sometimes there are problems with electricity.
Yes.
Or even if they use like diesel just to make sure that there is no problem, if there is another train in front of you which runs on electricity, then you're stuck.
Yeah.
Or we had a customer who was actually delayed, because that was when Kim Jong-un went up to
Mount Pektu?
One of the white horse rides. They were waiting for the marshal to pass.
Right.
I think way back to Pyongyang.
How long were they delayed for?
I can't remember, but they are the record holders in the history of Korea tours.
Okay. Oh, so we're talking like days they were delayed for?
I think it was more than 24 hours.
Okay, wow. In that case, could they get off the train and stay in a hotel nearby, or did they literally just have to stay on the train? Wow.
And those carriage, in my case, the carriage didn't have air conditioning, and it was only at the end. But that's like, then what is the other time when you have chance to spend time North Koreans for like 24 hours?
Yeah.
Where there is no escape for them, there is no escape for you.
Yeah.
And then you pretty much, if you don't want to be bored to death, then that's the only like I didn't have any problem with the delay because I really enjoyed it. It was like we played card games, we ate together, we shared our food together. It was with our colleagues. We had conversations. It's
Yeah.
an experience which is not really possible outside the train experience.
Just everyone's in it together. I think that, if you've got something binding like that, like, your train is delayed, it's such like a human thing. It's like, who in the world has not been on a train that has, that has been delayed? Like, I think everyone has experienced a train delay at some point in their life. So, everyone understands it and can empathize and is also in it together. So that's the first thing that binds you. But then, of course, yeah, it's a very unique experience.
And it also, if you keep your eyes open, you can see like because they have domestic carriages as well. So you are put in the carriage which will go over to Russia.
Right.
And the rest of the train is the domestic carriages for the Pyongyang, Chongjin, Pyongyang, Rason line. And you see like how people are getting off. I mean, and then and then they hang out on the platform. You can see quite a lot. And you can see stuff which confirms some of your readings. Mm.
Okay.
People always complain that you don't see real life in North Korea, you don't see real North Korea. They only show you what they want you to show. But electricity is not running on party order. So if it's off, it's off. Maybe it might be off somewhere where they wouldn't want you to stop.
Yeah.
And you see, and it's just a question of how much you keep your eyes open. So it's a very good experience in every respect, in the social respect as well, because as I said, you spend almost unlimited time with North Koreans. Also, since they are on a train, which is like boiling hot, well, it's not, they not won't be in their, tie and suit.
Right. Yeah. They've actually like changed into their sports gear, or they're comfortable. Like they've taken off their shirt and now the guys are just wearing their vest tops underneath. I can imagine it.
And that also changes the whole atmosphere. Like they become less of like it's less official. It's like you become buddies, not like I mean, for me it's not a big change, but for the tourists, it's a massive change.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you did this train tour, were you just by yourself or you were with tourists?
So I was with actually the couple I met here in Iceland.
Yeah.
It's a shared experience.
Oh, so that's how you got that's how you got up to Pegdusan on this train?
No,
It was
no,
on a
no.
different tour.
We went up to Rason.
Ah.
It was the same tour. It was just an extension of the tour because I've never been to Rason before. So I wanted to go and see and and meet the local partner there. Um, and actually it was funny because he wasn't my guide, but he was the guide for the tourists. But I met a colleague working for the Rason International Travel Company or whatever they are called, whom I helped out during my last stay in Chongjin because there was a conference in in Rason. And there was a French delegate who wasn't allowed back to China.
Oh, they didn't have the correct Chinese visa.
Exactly.
The bane of our lives.
So he's stuck in Rason, then they brought him down to Chongjin. And then they didn't really have a good flow of information. And then I just overheard their conversation and I just went up to them that, okay, like I work in tourism. I know the problem what you are talking about, and I can confirm this and that.
That's very cool.
And that's also like he doesn't have to stay in Pyongyang because like there is going to be like a 3 hours to catch the flight to China. Then we had to check because he was taking advantage of the 24-hour
Right. Oh, yeah, the transit visa or something. Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then we arrived. So there is a border, like an internal border crossing between DPRK proper and Rason, special economic zone.
Hmm.
They just got on the train, and then it's like, oh, I know you were from somewhere, and then they remembered, and then we.
Oh, very cool. So then you got to like chatting away and stuff. I'm sure you probably shared a soju or dried fish or two.
Not with them because we had different schedule. But
Right.
anyways, it was fun. But also, I think you can take the train. So if you don't want to go to Rason,
Hmm.
you can also take the train to Changjin.
Okay. Very cool. Chongjin is North Korea's third largest city.
To be the second, but I understand.
No, second is Hamhung, I think.
I said it used to
Oh,
be,
it used to be, sorry. Yeah.
and then Hamhung is or Hamhung, Hungnam together, the second biggest.
Okay. And Chongjin, I'm trying to give a kind of visual to people that are listening. If we have Rason is kind of up here, like kind of closer to Russia and up here, and then Chongjin is like here, further to the left-hand side, closer to
So,
China.
it's definitely not closer to China because
Oh,
Rason
it's not.
is.
Oh yeah, sorry, Rason's on the border to China. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not good at geography. I'm really not good at geography.
Both are actually sea towns, so
Okay.
East Coast.
Okay. I guess
Like
people
Rason
can
is just
go over to Google Maps if they want to see where Rason and Chongjin are. But these are two places that the internal trade network can take you in North Korea.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Chongqing is also the city which is depicted in Barbara Demick's book Nothing to Envy.
Ah, okay. Yeah, probably people will know that one. If anyone's read that book before, Nothing to Envy. How long does this train journey take? How long does the one to Dason, how long should it take? How long does it generally take to Chongjin? Same question. And the third question is how often are these trains from Pyongyang?
I would say 24 hours is a good estimate.
That's how long it takes to either Rason or Chongjin.
Yeah, because like Rason to Chongqing is like 2 hours plus.
Hmm. And do you have a
Also,
bed on these trains?
yeah, it's a sleeper train. But it's more like a Russian one.
Hmm. Four
It's
carriages only. Four beds only, right?
4 beds, but it's the one which is with like cubicles.
Hmm.
But it's unfortunately the beds are leather or like fake leather beds.
Yeah, I hate that. And like it's really sticky and they don't give you a sheet and stuff because they give you sheets on the Chinese trains.
What did they? What did they? No, they gave us sheets.
Oh, they did. Okay. Because I've been on
They
them once some before and they just don't give you sheets and I'm like, "Ugh, it's really like when you're all sweaty and stuff and your skin sticking to that.
did so that yeah, it's like 4 beds in one cubicle, um, and
Is there a dining card?
no, so you
Ah,
have to do your shopping before, but there is at least in our cubicle there was like a wooden thingy which could be turned into a desk. So
okay.
basically,
Do you fold
there
it
was
down?
no. It's under the bed. You take it out from the bed, and it goes in the width
Ah,
of the cubicle. So
okay, that's
basically,
interesting.
you have like a huge dining table kind of thing,
Mhm.
and the train attendant will like if you have, for example, cup noodles, you give it to the train attendant, and she will take it for you
Ah,
to boil, like to use the boil water and prepare it for you.
Ah, that's nice. So you don't have access to their own hot water yourself. You have to like get someone to do it, or she just does that because she's nice.
Uh, Honestly, I don't remember. Probably they have to boil it up, and I wouldn't be
Right.
surprised if it's boiling all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair enough. So very different to the Chinese sleeper training experience. Um, and so what kind of food did you bring on the train journey with you? You have to have, I guess, 24 hours worth of food, right? At least.
Uh, Noodles. We also ordered the jjajangmyeon in Pyongyang station, so that was our breakfast.
Oh, that's funny.
So they delivered the jjajangmyeon to, because there is a delivery, food delivery in Pyongyang.
Tell us more. Tell us more, Greg, about the food delivery in Pyongyang.
So basically, I only experienced it when traveling by train, because I really wanted to try like the jjajangmyeon, what's not prepared in a hotel, but like, you know, street food kind of jjajangmyeon.
Hmm.
And and also like our colleagues said that, "Well, you know, sometimes you order jjajangmyeon to KITC offices and you eat it there." So
Ah, so they order food to the office. I love that.
obviously, like, okay, then could we try it? And then yes, of course, yeah, yeah, why not? And
Very
then
cool.
when you get on the train, then we will order the jjajangmyeon, and then we're going to bring the delivery to the train station, and then we can have it on the train.
That's very
That was
cool.
our that was our breakfast, and then we had cup noodles, what else? Some North Korean snacks. I think the guide had some like spam. I mean, not the American GI, you know, North Korean version of the spam. They had something which was made of the, it was like dried pork stomach or something like that.
Sounds
Um,
appetizing.
that was pretty good actually. The taste,
Mhm.
smell wasn't, but the taste was good. We had talpi. Oh yeah, we bought talpi at one of the stations when we were waiting for hours. Um, so basically the food is what you bring
Yeah.
from Pyongyang.
Is there are toilets on the train, I presume, or is just a hole in the floor toilet?
No, no, you know, that's something I should remember because I'm dealing with it as a tour manager as well. But because I personally prefer squat toilets,
Ah, okay. So you don't notice either way.
uh, yeah, you know, I wouldn't have this shocking experience that, oh my God, they don't have the
Yeah.
toilet because, oh, they have what I want to have. So
Yeah, 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 fair.
let's face it.
Yeah. And they have running water, I guess, or no? No, no, no. Wash your hands. Cool. Nice. Anywhere, and how long do they go? Sorry, that I kind of cut in with all these questions. How often do they go? It's like once a week or
So no, the schedule is not like that. There are certain dates
ah
every month,
ah
which I'm sure is on our website. I mean,
okay.
it's definitely not valid currently,
Hmm.
but the schedule is up on Choreo's website, and it represents the reality back in 2019
Right. I have a question. Oh,
or 2020.
right. I have a question that just came to mind because I remember taking the Trans-Siberian from, well, I took the Trans-Mongolian technically from Beijing to Moscow. And when you transfer from China into Mongolia, I think it is, or Mongolia into Russia, I can't remember. The train changes tracks. Um, does it do that? The DPRK train when it goes into Russia?
Yes,
Ah,
but it's done. So basically, so what's happening that you get off in Rason,
mm-hmm,
the train goes further to Mangang station.
mm-hmm.
and that's where they change the tracks.
The tracks, yeah. Ah.
But you don't experience that change because you are touring Rason while it's being done.
Ah, that's the 24-hour period in Rason. And yeah, because I remember on the Trans-Mongolian, you literally like sit on the train whilst it's happening. It's a bizarre thing that your train carriage is lifted up whilst you are in it. I mean, you don't feel it lifting up because it's like a massive train carriage, but like you can see it if you look outside. It's very interesting.
It's also happening on the Ukrainian-Hungarian border.
Oh, right. Okay. Ah, so it's a normal thing for you, I guess. It's not interesting. Never mind.
I never traveled,
Okay.
but the concept is not alien for me
Right.
because
It's yeah, for me being British and on an island, we don't have we do have train connected to France, to mainland Europe, like to
eyes and this whole trekking is basically for security reasons
is it?
because in case of war and if your territory is occupied by the occupying forces, it takes them a lot of time
Ah,
change their uh, train tracks to the occupied territories tracks.
makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
So that's why so for those who have no idea what we are talking about, the gauge width is different in the former Soviet Union and the rest of the world.
Right.
The Russian or the Soviet one is wider than our standard ones.
And that's why you have to change the tracks of the train. Very interesting. Cool. This is why this is why I need you in my life. It's all these things that like I just miss out on. Is there anything else notable about the internal train network in North Korea? I presume it's probably one of the cheapest in the world. Would I be right in saying that? It's probably not for foreigners, it's super cheap, but definitely for North Koreans, it's maybe very cheap.
That's something I suppose it's cheap, but the problem is that not everyone is allowed to take it, so you have to get
Right.
permits. It's not like
Yeah.
that, you want to visit your grandmother in Wonsan and then you just go to Pyongyang station and okay, hey, give me a ticket.
Yeah.
You have
So
to
what do North Koreans have to do?
basically when you buy a ticket, you have to, and also when the Korean guides are purchasing the ticket for themselves for the train, because you have to have two Korean guides on the trip up to uh, they usually come to Chongjin and then they take trucks back to Pyongyang.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they have to present their travel permit when purchasing the tickets for themselves.
Right.
And also for those, because it's more common for tourists to travel from Pyongyang to Sinuiju, but they might have realized, especially if they were doing the Sinuiju extension, they were in the like, domestic carriages, that there are um, like train police.
Right.
The uniform, which is in this weird greenish, bluish color.
Yeah, I've seen them before.
So those are the ones who are checking the travel permits and stuff.
Right. Okay. And how hard can the regular North Korean get this? Do they have to have like a reason? Like, for example, if I moved to Pyongyang for work, but I did have family up in Rason, is that a valid reason? Can I go and visit my family to do that? No. People can't hear you if you're shaking your head.
I knew people or know people whose family is in Sinuiju or the other way around. They haven't seen their parents for 2 or 3 years.
Right. So I presume it will be a kind of like they're given the opportunity to go back home.
Yeah, so yeah. And most of the people that travel on the trains, they are traveling for business and other stuff.
Right.
We see a lot of soldiers on the train,
Mm-hmm.
traders, and I guess some people can get travel permits by, going the other way around. That means like corruption or like some, extra. So the train ride itself might be cheap, covered by your company, but if you are not sent by your company and you want to do it on your own and you have to get a permit and stuff, then I think all the extra spendings will be expensive.
Fair enough. I was just going to say something on that, but I've forgotten what it was now. Never mind. Okay. Is there anything else notable about the train? Because we're kind of going to have to wind this episode down. I know it kind of feels like we didn't really get into the train too much, but we've been speaking for ages, so maybe we did. Maybe have we covered everything that's noteworthy on the train? Do you have any anecdotes or anything that you wanted to say about your trip, or is that pretty much, have we done everything?
I think that's everything.
Yeah, cool. So if anyone listening wants to go as a tourist and wants to experience the local train network in North Korea, where can they go? What can they do? Is there a tour, a specific tour, or is it more of you have to do a private tour?
So we have at least one specific train tour every year, or we used to have, but it happened only once because then when it would have happened again, that's when COVID hit. And also basically that's tour. We wanted to do it with the Russian Far East. I mean, no Far East, with Vladivostok. So basically, we would have had a tour in Pyongyang, and then we would have went up to Rason, and then do the Russian part.
Right. Okay.
And also I was planning to do one more group tour, which would have exited into China, because the idea was that we should offer more group tours which are visiting Rason.
Right.
But most of the tourists are doing it as an extension, as a tour extension.
Right. And as an extension of, like, they go on a tour to Pyongyang and then they add on like a train tour. Yeah.
But unfortunately, if it's like a private extension, then it's quite expensive because you have to cover the train tickets for 2 guys as well.
Yeah.
So suddenly the train ticket, which is 150 euros, or it used to be in 2019, becomes 450 euros.
It's an expensive train ticket.
Because you are covering
for 3.
Yeah.
Ah, man. So my initial thoughts of it being one of the cheapest transport networks in the world, even for the Koreans, was completely off. 150, even for the Koreans. I'm really surprised.
Oh, no. Yeah, because you have to pay. I mean,
No, I get it. But like, I'm surprised that the North Koreans still have to pay that amount as well.
but it's not that. That's not them paying it, and it's also in the international carriage, so not in the domestic carriage.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're because as a foreigner, I guess you're buying like an international ticket and you have to buy okay. Yeah. So it will be cheaper for domestic North Koreans, but the North Koreans traveling with a foreigner are not traveling kind of as a domestic.
For example, you don't have to cover the way back to.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And that will be a lot cheaper.
Which is, I think it's a problem actually, because they have to take trucks and stuff. So my idea is, I don't know, but it's financially problematic because then it's going to be more and more expensive tour. But at least for the group tour, that we take a train which allows them to catch the flight back to Pyongyang.
Right. That's very considerate of you.
So and it's usually always the same people who are doing that. Like there's not a big pool of local Korean guides who would do and one of my colleagues did it like 4 times in a row.
Wow. Okay. Sounds tiring. Cool. Anything else you want to add?
Oh, about the train. Not now. We were trying to, and who knows, it might be possible. That is, instead of taking the bus to Hamhung, we could take the train because it goes through Hamhung.
Right. Yeah, so that's one thing that I do want to point out is that what we've talked about today is domestic train journeys that tourists can take, but there are more domestic North Korean trains. There is more to the internal railway network in North Korea than just what we've spoken about today, right? Yeah, maybe we'll have to definitely save that one. We've got a whole list of episodes that I need to do with you, Greg, piling up. But I am going to have to cut things off for now because we've been chatting for a long time. Can I give people your Koryo contact email? If they have any questions on the South Korea tour that we kind of briefly touched upon, and we will be doing a podcast on in the next few weeks, I suppose, to let people kind of know if they want to contact you about that, or also about potentially doing the train journey in North Korea once the borders open. I'm okay to give them your email.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's Greg. You can say it if you want.
Koreogroup.com.
Greg@choreogroup.com. Okay, I'll put that in the show notes as well. And where can people find your Instagram? Because you mentioned it at the start. Maybe just give it a plug now.
Gervaczi, so GERGOVACZI.
GERGOVACZI or VACZI as my British compatriots might prefer to say.
I have a very, very special relationship to the English language because in some respect I prefer British English, in some respect I prefer American English.
Well, that's one thing that we differ on, Greg, because I know which one my preference is. Anyway, thanks so much, Greg. Stay on after I end this because I want to say goodbye to you properly. But for everyone else listening out there, I'm going to say goodbye, and we're going to pretend to say goodbye to Greg as well. You guys actually will be saying goodbye to Greg. Thank you very much for joining us, Greg. Honestly, if anyone has any comments or anything like that, anything you want to say to Greg, anything you'd like to see him talk on next time when we get together, let me know. Any guest recommendations, email me with anything on zoediscovers@gmail.com or any of my social medias, especially Instagram. I always reply to @zoediscovers or @zoediscoversnk. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time or hear you next time. Bye bye, and see you later, Greg. Pretend to say goodbye.